Right, welcome back to the latest in my series of stunningly underproduced videos, for which I don't apologize. Time spent learning cinematography is time better spent working on your kilt and getting to it in time. In this episode, we're going to talk about how to properly put an elastic into an army kilt. You don't see these in civilian kilts, but soldiers are fond of them because it keeps the pleats nice and rigid and looking good on parade. These things are usually done poorly, or at least not the best job, and they're often done in some respects too well. So if we look down here, here's an old elastic. It's been sewn on really well, and that presents a problem because the elastic has expired. The rubber's dead. And this always happens. But because it's sewn on so very well, black thread on black elastic on dark tartan, I have a real job ahead of me, very meticulous and quite stressful, to get these stitches off without harming the cloth. So I'm going to show you a better way. First off, and I'm just going to leave that for now, this is far too low. If the elastic is too low, when you do foot drill, your kilt pulls in when you bring your knee up, and it looks silly. So we're going to put the elastic in about a little less than a hand's breadth below the bottom of the stitching of the pleats, which is below the lining. And it's, as you can see, it's about midway, approximately midway between the two white pleats on the C4 kilt. Now, I just make a chalk mark there. Now here's a kilt that I've done it to, because, oh, so I should back up. The first thing we need to do, having removed that elastic, is baste the pleats. And I went into this on the chapter on how to press your kilt. The pleats have been basted together with white thread in the method that I've already showed you. And that again is important so that it's held together, so when I turn the thing over, it's still held together. And this is the mistake that everybody makes, because you think it's together, you flip it over, you can't see how well the pleats are. And that's why we get this mess. So here's a kilt that I've put an elastic on, and lo and behold, I have to repair it. How about that? The elastic is, as I said, about halfway between the pleats, but you'll notice that I've used contrasting thread. And the contrasting color is that so that I don't send myself blind picking this apart when, as inevitably I must, take this elastic off when it expires. So contrasting thread, I'm sewing every other pleat. Now you can see it's let go here. That's to be expected. I would rather the thread let go than the cloth be torn, because eventually, as I said, this has to be removed. I do a moderately good job of attaching it, but if something's going to fail, it's going to be the thread. And because it's contrasting color thread, it's easy for me, there it is right there, it's easy for me to remove that thread without harming the cloth. And I don't go blind doing it. I mean, my eyes are bad enough as this. So I laid it out, and if at all possible, of course, miracle of self-preparing that I am, I don't have the roll that I showed you, but where possible, I use a elastic in a contrasting color as well. I used black here because that's what I had. Now I'm using sort of an off-white and natural color stuff. It makes it easier to see. It makes it harder to screw up. So again, halfway down between the two white lines, contrasting colored elastic, contrasting colored thread, stitch every other pleat, and stitch them only secure enough to hold it on, but not so secure that you're going to risk ruining the cloth when the time comes to pick it off. Better the thread fails than you ruin the cloth. Thank you, and good night.